So what we're going to be talking about today is A360 collaboration for Revit and A360 team. So we're going to be explaining what that actually is, how they work together and why they actually work together. Go over a couple of things on how it actually benefits project teams, not just specific companies, but the entire team on a project, and then go over how you can access it. And don't worry, this isn't going to be death by PowerPoint. We're actually going to be spending time going over the actual software itself, both from a desktop as well as from a mobile standpoint. So first, what I wanted to start off with is talk a little bit about today's issues. Like, why are we talking about collaboration for Revit? Well, one of the big issues that we run into is the sharing of information or communication. So a lot of the times when we're trying to work on a project, we're working between 5, 10, however many different people on this project, let alone companies. And how do we actually share this content? Well, in terms of how, some places are actually using things like Link or Google Chat to actually communicate an instant message. A lot of places still rely on email. Problems with email, though, is actually sharing of files. So when we're talking about BIM files, we're not talking about a 1 meg CAD file. We're talking about tens or hundreds of megs, let alone gigs worth of content. Dealing with that, we maybe look at FTP sites. FTPs are very good for sharing a lot of content, but they're not very user-friendly or robust for a lot of situations. And really all they are is a file sharing location. It's not something that does a lot other than, here's a couple of files and that's it. You're not going to be getting notifications, for example, about that. So moving on, for what we're really looking at in today's climate is a lot of different cloud platforms. So you have Box, you've got OneDrive, Google Drive, the A360 Drive on the very top there. All of them are very good at what they do. They're very good for sharing specific content, and in some cases actually viewing it. But they're not really made for the industry. They're not made for a project or for a collaborative environment for what we're talking about. So what we're talking about are buildings. Buildings that typically are using designers, engineers. Most of the time when we talk about collaboration, we're really just focusing on them. But what we're looking at now is we're talking about the construction companies, the owners, the vendors of equipment, the actual occupants of this building, the people who maintain the building after it's been completed. In terms of that, we've got CAD files, floor plans, drawings, different designs, many kinds of models, management software, renderings. Now we're looking at emails, tracking of phone calls and actual in-person conversations, markups, scheduling of meetings and tracking of issues. So we're not looking at just collaboration in terms of the standpoint of a couple of drawings and maybe a model. We're looking at something that can be helpful for the life cycle of this project and for all people who are involved with it, not just the people that are typically thought of when it comes to designing a building. Now, in terms of solving this, one of the things we're going to look at is A360, and it's not an umbrella. 360 is essentially the umbrella term for all of Autodesk's cloud services. So if you hear A360 or 360, BIM 360, all of those are cloud-based. Now, in terms of that, cloud for a lot of people, it's basically anything that happens online. But really the benefit of that is almost unlimited computing power. Rather than being limited to my little laptop in front of me, I'm taking advantage of a lot more processing power of servers that Autodesk has access to. And overall for 360, we're focusing on two different things. A360, which is more for the construction side, and BIM 360, which is more for the actual construction side for doing collaboration and coordination in construction, field management. And when we look at the different applications for this, we can see that there's a lot more on the design of construction side. So we've got things like AutoCAD 360, InfraWorks, Formit, rendering, CFD, structural analysis, and A360 collaboration for Revit, which is where we're going to be focusing today. So we got A360, we have A360 collaboration for Revit, and what that's going to look to help us out with is taking all of those different pieces, all those different users, all that different information, and trying to create one portal, one location that can bring everything together and actually help people work with everybody else. So we're going to be looking at Autodesk A360 collaboration. It's a cloud-based tool. It works with Revit. And how it actually works is by bringing all of our multiple team members together under one roof, essentially. Now, how this works is when we typically look at a Revit project or a BIM project, it's one single firm. You know, everybody, you might have 5 different firms on a project, but each one has its own Revit file, and each file lives inside its own office. Now, if you have other people working on this, typically what they might be looking at is different problems or issues with accessing it. But A360 collaboration moves past having that everybody has their own in their own office. What it enables everybody to do is go beyond having a WAN or VPN, which may or may not actually work very well for a firm that might have more than one location, and enables them to collaborate not just amongst themselves, but with other firms that are outside of their network. So what it actually does is it provides a portal. Everybody on the project can access that portal, regardless of where they are, what network they sit behind, who they work for. And that allows multi-firm concurrent authoring. And it allows you to do data transfers that rather than updating, you know, a 300 meg Revit file, you're only doing the changes that you've made. So you might be uploading or downloading only a couple of megs here and there as you actually work on the project. And essentially, this speeds up the process a lot. For those who have actually tried Revit Server, one of the problems that a lot of people have with that is that it's only internal to their office. The other problems they run into is that it can be slow because the internet out of an office tends to be faster than the network from office to office. So this actually speeds up this process for a lot of our clients. Now, outside of having multiple people able to edit a file at the same time, you have no IT setup. There's no management of a server in your office. You're not trying to figure out, okay, well, how are we working with the VPN? Who are we letting in? Are we making a DMZ? Are we setting up Citrix? Are we doing all these other things to allow someone access to our content? Or do we just give them a login and we're fine? One of the other things is the BIM content that we have that's on the cloud is directly accessible to other tools that are on the cloud, such as the Revit rendering, BIM 360 Glue, online viewing, which I'll be showing as well. So you're putting more work into the portal so that way everything else can access that. Now, some of the things that most people might not be aware of with collaboration for Revit is that it helps communication, not just in terms of sharing of data, but literally directly of sharing of communication. It actually builds in a small instant message system. Now, the instant messenger is only for other people that are part of the project, so you don't have to worry about people messaging their friends. It's built into Revit. It's aware of the project that you're in. You can actually send screenshots, and you can chat with more than one person. So if you want to send an email or IM to everybody in the project saying, hey, don't forget we have to publish our work this afternoon, so at lunch, save, and we're printing, we're done. So I can send that out to everybody who's in the project all at once. And the Revit Worksharing activity feed that tells me who's saving, who's opening, what's going on, so I can keep track of my project that way. Now, some of the biggest things with this whole service are some of the major pieces of BIM. So one of the big things of BIM is intelligence, information. Now, having that information and sort of hoarding it or not sharing it, it's not really good for anybody. So this is making it possible to share that information with anyone. It's making that possible to view that data from anywhere, because all the work that I'm doing locally can actually be viewable online or on a mobile device, regardless of whether it's Windows, Android, or iOS. And it's also searchable. So if I'm looking for a specific piece of data, whether it's a certain door, diffuser, or piece of equipment, I can actually search that model online to try to find that information.